Back, guys, to another episode of ABL Sports. Today, once again, we are here with Rams Talk. As you can tell by the title of the video, the Ty Simpson's kind of pick's going to be the main discussion of the video. We have two drastically different opinions on it. And well, we'll talk about the draft as well, even though we already kind of did a draft recap in another video. So Marlon, just kind of starting with you, like 13th pick, Rams are on the clock. Your guy, Mekhi Lemon's available. My guy, Monroe Freeling's available. They picked Ty Simpson, and you were at the draft party as well.
Yeah, so I was actually there in Hollywood Park. They held a little draft experience. If you guys saw on my channel too, I did a little walkthrough and posted some pictures there. It was a really cool experience. Shout out to, the Rams for making that happen and to Zillow. That was awesome. But my overall thoughts, I really just thought, with all the other players available, you could have a scary rushing depth chart or edge rusher depth chart with Ruben Bain still there. I mean, of course, we've talked about Lemon for a long time now. I would have loved to see him on the team. But you know what? I think the Rams saw that other teams probably were going to try and take him, considering he is a solid quarterback. He's not
I'm going
Fernando.
to disagree, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, he's not Fernando Mendoza by any means, but I think behind Matthew Stafford, who was just the MVP of the league, and Sean McVay's offense, they could get him straight. And of course, we won't see him for a couple years, especially knowing that Stafford's soon to sign a big extension, as rumors have been floating around. But I guess we're just gonna have to see. The only thing we could look forward to as of now as Rams fans is just preseason and but there was also some other people that the Rams got. But I think Ty Simpson at 13 maybe was a bit early. I just think that the Rams saw the other teams wanted him potentially, and it's kind of tricky because I feel like 13, holding the 13th pick after almost going to the Super Bowl is it's big value. So to get him at 13, to me was very very early. Maybe if we could have like I've heard, trade the 13th pick for McDuffie and then you use the
Yeah,
29th.
that's the interesting thing. Yeah, I would have liked that one.
Yeah, that would have made a lot of sense, but it is what it is, and the Rams decided to sit at 13, and they really value Ty Simpson clearly, and regardless of Sean McVay's expression and all that, and all the people saying that he wasn't a part of this pick, this is a professional league. I mean, these people are getting paid millions of dollars. They don't sign off on things like this that are this big if it's not agreed upon. I'm sure Sean McVay had his other options. I'm sure he liked Mekhi Lemon just as much as we did, if not more. And all these other people that were available, like, maybe the Rams were, I know Fano was the first to go and Mount was at like 10, I believe. So,
Yes.
if the Rams really wanted to be aggressive, they could have went and got their 10-year offensive tackle spot. But they chose Simpson just at a very early value.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things to say about that. So I'll give my opinion on Ty Simpson in a minute. So starting with you mentioned something that I'm glad you mentioned, them being aggressive and trading up to maybe get a tackle. I thought, that could be a possibility, but once the Chiefs traded up, because like let's be honest, there were only three teams in the top 10 who were willing to trade back. It was the Titans, the Cardinals, the Titans, and the Browns. And obviously, the Cardinals and Titans didn't trade back. And once the Chiefs traded with the Browns, that kind of filled up because you knew the Commanders, I mean, they were going to pass up Sonny Styles. The Saints, they had their eye on Jordan Tyson. I mean, maybe if the Saints were so high on Mansur Delane, they would have traded back, but who knows if Jordan Tyson would have been there at 13. Um, they could have gone up to 11 um, for the Cowboys, but also like the linemen were taken by then. So I have a couple thoughts on this. So, like I said, and I was pretty vocal on this channel, I didn't think Mekhi Lemon was going to be the pick. Just because if you look at the Rams, I mean, even dating back to Sean McVay's first draft, I mean, they drafted Cooper Kupp third round. And I think the earliest receiver they've drafted besides Cooper Kupp was Van Jefferson in the second round. That was with like the 60th pick or something.
That and
Um,
two Atwell, yeah.
yeah, Tutu Atwell as well. So I think I was in like the 50s or something like that. So the Rams, like, they're not a team who drafts receivers very high. I know they haven't drafted a lot of people in the first round in the past couple of years, but if you look at their first round picks, it's been, Jared Verse, like linemen. Um,
Yeah,
but
you don't see a lot of skill positions out of Sean McVay and Snead.
yeah, and I mean that's completely fine. I mean they've won a Super Bowl and they've they were close to. I mean, they won a Super Bowl. They made one in 2018, and they would have won this year if they beat the Seahawks. So, I mean, they're obviously doing something right. But kind of transitioning to the Ty Simpson pick, you know, McVay's not happy about it. The media's not happy about it. I'm not happy about it. I just want to read you some stats from Ty Simpson, which kind of concern me. And I know stats are stats, but I want to start with the Florida State game. The first loss of the season. He played terrible, 23 of 43, 254. He had two touchdowns and no turnovers. But if you watch the game, it was out of hand by like the third quarter. And then he comes back like against Georgia, the first game against Georgia, very good game. Um, Goes completes 24 passes, 276 yards, two touchdowns. I'll give him that. Great game. I'm only going to name the games that he went against NFL talent for. Then he's got Tennessee. 19 of 29, 253, two touchdowns. He wasn't asked to do much. I mean, the game was over kind of they were up 23-7 at halftime, but still, game manager, good job. And then LSU, this game kind of concerned me. His stats were good. He had 277 yards and one touchdown, but if you watch the game, it was a lot of dump offs, a lot of, Brock Purdy stuff.
Hmm.
Which I think Brock Purdy's a great quarterback. And then Oklahoma had a touchdown interception. Like he's not a big interception guy, which is good. And then Georgia in the SEC championship played terrible, bounced back against Oklahoma in the college football playoff, and played terrible against Indiana. Um, but it's like if he becomes Brock Purdy, this is a fantastic pick. But
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I don't know if he's gonna become Brock Purdy. I know everyone's saying like, oh, he's only got 15 starts. You need 30 starts to win a Super Bowl or the formula or whatever. I'm gonna actually defend him on that because I do believe Kalen DeBoer would have started him last year if Jalen Milroe hadn't led Bama to the playoffs under Saban. If like he would have benched Jalen Milroe and went with Ty Simpson, it would have been too like kind of like it. He had to keep in Jalen Milroe.
Yeah,
Like
let me just say this. I think that Ty Simpson by no means was the most star or flashy player in college football. He wasn't the Jaden Daniels. He wasn't the ideal pocket passer as Joe Burrow was or other, rising stars that are in the league
mhm,
now. So I can get behind you on that. I just think with him going into the Rams organization, arguably is probably the best offensive situation he could have been in,
best
regardless.
offensive situation for any quarterback.
Yeah, so I think regardless of like, let's say the Rams theoretically had a very early second and they somehow got him. I think it's still the best case scenario for Simpson. I mean, like I said, Matthew Stafford was just the league MVP. He's got a lot of knowledge behind him, and clearly he's still healthy enough to want to sign an extension. So, Rams fans, we're not going to have to worry about seeing any mid or below tier of good quarterback play. We're going to be seeing some good quarterback play for as long as Matthew Stafford is healthy. So, I think getting Ty Simpson is a great insurance option. You get very lucky last season knowing that he didn't get any injuries and he was almost out in going into the playoffs or after the Panthers game, I believe, when he had
Yeah.
a finger issue, which was very, very minuscule. But when you get that old, injuries like that can be way worse at any point. So it's hard, but I think Simpson behind McVay's offense and Stafford could be a very, very good thing, and I think people are misjudging him and misreading him for what he could be potentially,
Yeah.
and have a lot of high hopes for him.
Yeah, and like you touched on it before, I mean, if he was selected with the 29th pick, no one has any issue with this, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like if the Rams would have traded the 13th for McDuffie and took Simpson at 29, which he would have been available at 29. I wholeheartedly believe he would have been available because as you can see by the Cardinals, Carson they picked Carson Beck. Way different player than Ty Simpson. Like I think the Cardinals was a lot of, smoke and mirrors with Ty Simpson. And also they're probably gonna draft like their guy next year. They're gonna be pretty bad next year. Um, but it's just the thing with my issue with it was there's a quarterback on the Bengals, Joe Burrow. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Rumor is he's very unhappy. And next year could be his last year in Cincy.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm like, you don't make any move until you know what's happening with Joe Burrow. That's like my only issue with this. Like you don't do anything until you know what's happening with him. And that's kind of why I don't know.
Well, I think it's hard because Sean McVay and Les Snead are very slow when it comes to it, but Sean McVay also knows QB talent very, very well, better than most NFL coaches, probably better than
Oh
30
yeah,
of
I
them.
agree.
So it's just, I think if McVay saw an opportunity to go get Joe Burrow and Stafford was nearing the end, I think McVay would definitely go and be aggressive, whatever we'd have to give up. If it required Jared Verse to have a franchise quarterback for the next 5 years, knowing Burrow would be happy in LA behind a
You
good
do.
offensive line, even if it took a couple years to get him a ring, he still got there. And then, he hasn't had really seen as good of a season with Cincinnati since he played the Rams, and look where that went. So it's like, I just think if McVay wants to go and get his star quarterback, he'll get him. And if Ty Simpson doesn't work out in the next 2 years, he won't be our fit. And maybe that 13th pick was a bust, or maybe we could trade it away for some value. But I think if McVay needs a quarterback for Stafford's replacement, I think he'll go and get one. And I think he'll get a pretty darn good one if he needs one too.
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, going into this offseason, your only major need was secondary, and you addressed that in free agency and trade. Like, for example, like if you didn't trade for McDuffie and you didn't, and let's say you selected a Ty Simpson 13, that's a different story. But you traded for McDuffie. You guys did all the right Super Bowl all-in things. And my thing was like, receiver, you guys can live without. In worst case scenario, you do like what the Seahawks did. You get like a Rashid Shaheed or someone at the deadline or whoever's going to be available because someone will be available. Like just thinking of like the bad teams, like the Jets, like maybe a Garrett Wilson's available. You might have to give a little more for him, but or like for the Colts, like an Alec Pierce if they're bad, like something like that, or a Brian Thomas from the Jaguars. But it's
I
just
like I
yeah,
like
but like it's just with the Rams, it's just like what I would have done. Like I just would have gone tackle first round because, like I said, like you said, they're never going to be in that position again.
Yeah, tackle. I mean, especially with this, yeah, you're not going to be in the 13th pick, but especially in this draft, like, and the Rams are contenders, so they won't even see top 15 or below picks unless they
They're not
get.
singing top 25.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they even got it off Atlanta was a blessing. So it's like, we'll see what happens, but I think I think you're right, but I think going tackle or maybe if they again, like I've said this in the last episode we did, if they really wanted to secure that secondary down and go get somebody else, like I forget who was around there, but maybe a trade in Stooks or trade up to like the 20th or the 25th pick, go get like late first, early second round cornerback skill, that'd be great. You could solidify your cornerback room secondary for the next 3 or 4 years. Done. That's done. Now you just got to worry about your QB and don't even get me started on CJ Daniels. I mean, if this guy turns out to be another $10+ million contract player, don't be surprised why the Rams picked Ty Simpson. This man recorded 557 yards. He has 7 touchdowns, over 50 catches. He was a beast at Miami behind a pretty mid quarterback at Carson Beck. So he could definitely produce. He had one of the craziest college football catches of the last year, if you guys saw it on my post, compared to Omar Cooper Jr.'s catch in the end zone against Penn State. But like the Rams, besides Ty Simpson, they didn't do a terrible job. I mean, they've drafted a lot of undrafted free agents. They've drafted Matthew Caldwell, name out of Texas, behind Arch Manning. They drafted CJ Daniels, as I just mentioned, Keegan Trost, he's a little bit on the older side. He's about 25, which, isn't the worst, but he's a great offensive line piece that can be used anywhere on the front of the offensive line. And, knowing that Rob Havenstein just retired, shout out Big Rob, you're going to need some offensive tackle space. So I think they could work with Keegan, and they also got Max Clare, and knowing that the Rams are running 13 personnel, if one gets injured, Max Clare is right there to fill in. And he could go to work this preseason. He had a great, phenomenal year at Ohio
Yeah.
State last year too.
No, I agree with that. And yeah, I mean, with the Rams, just like it's like, yeah, they didn't have any needs. I just think if you're picking a quarterback that early, Ty Simpson wouldn't have been the one I went with. I mean, I wouldn't have went with anyone in this draft. I would have kind of just traded, tried to get a first rounder next year and banked on, a Julian Sain or something like that. Because, like, let's be honest, like next year, there's so many good quarterbacks. I mean, Swordsby isn't there, gonna be there anymore. But like Julian Sain, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, um, the Jaden Mayava from USC. Like one of those guys is gonna like fall to like 15 or something, kind of like Bo Nix did. And I think they're all gonna be pretty good. Maybe not Mayava because he's still got some inconsistencies, but Mayava's 6'4", 230, like and can run.
Well, I think the best case scenario is Rams go the Green Bay way.
Yeah,
Hopefully it turns out like a Jordan Love prospect. That'd be the best case scenario for Simpson,
Hmm.
especially with Rams
And
coming
that's
off.
what they'll do.
Yeah, especially coming off of Stafford. That's you're not going to get somebody like him for a long time unless you get Burrow maybe. But if Ty Simpson works out, then Rams fans we got nothing to be mad about. He's franchise quarterback right off the rip, and the dynasty
Yeah.
keeps going.
Yeah. And one of something interesting I actually just thought of. You guys brought in Cliff Kingsbury this offseason. Cliff Kingsbury has worked with and developed Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was good when he had Cliff. Now he sucks. Um, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Those are five really good quarterbacks.
Phenomenal quarterbacks.
And if he like I'm just saying, like, out of all the situations, I mean, the Rams, it's going to be really hard to fail with the Rams, but also we did say, or I did say with the Vikings, it's going to be impossible to fail as a quarterback with the Vikings, but look what happened in JJ McCarthy. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, I don't know if I would have Ty Simpson as a better prospect than JJ McCarthy, because I had JJ McCarthy as like a early second, I had Ty Simpson as a late second. Um, but I mean, it is, I mean, but like I said, he's not going to have to play for 2 years.
Yeah, I think even then though, like we misstep all the time. I think JJ McCarthy, like relating to Ty Simpson, could be amazing. You never know. Some people they walk into this league and they're not ready. Look at Caleb Williams. I mean, first year four, what were they 4-13, and then next season
Something like that.
they're competing with the Rams in the divisional round. So it's like we could see a lot of this quarterback play. I hope Ty Simpson at 13 wasn't the worst pick in the world. I do think it was very disappointing. Of course, most of us were thinking Makai Lemon or a big
No,
offensive.
most of you. Don't put me in it. It's not us. It's most of
Yeah,
you.
I mean, most of us Rams fans were
Yeah.
hoping to see a USC native, so that would have been pretty awesome to see. But I think honestly, looking back at it, the only thing I can say is taking him at 13 was way too early. But getting him is a great insurance option because quarterbacks don't come out of like you don't get quarterbacks out of anywhere. They're not the most reliant. They're
Yeah.
not always there, and especially with Stafford, a very very good QB, top three QB in the league right now. You're gonna need a good backup option if he goes down. And we got very lucky last season knowing that he didn't go out, especially with the finger thing, as I mentioned.
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about that isn't Ty Simpson related or?
CJ Daniels, trusting the U. I got the process. Shout out to the new Rams merch gear and the draft house. I recommend all you guys start tuning in to all the episodes and everything and watching all the new voiceovers. We got a lot of new content coming this summer, both Rams Talk and ABL. So thanks again, guys, for always watching and staying up to date with Rams Talk.
All right, thank you guys. Rams talk will be linked in the description. We'll see you guys next time.